Okay folks, so welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the build of the Rubicon Models Vietnam cargo truck. So we've made some fairly good progress. As I said in the sort of unboxing video, this is more about the base for it than the actual model itself. But I thought I'd sort of stop at this stage to show you where we're at um, uh, and what I've done to it this far before we start putting it together and lose the ability to see all of it. So we start with the chassis. So the chassis is brilliant, it goes together really well. That's all painted. The only thing I've really added to the chassis um, is this sort of added detail to the winch with the hook and the cable. And then on the front there, I've got 1968 and the US Marine Corps decals. And the reason I've put 1968 as a vehicle identification is because this whole sort of build and series was kind of inspired by Mark Keogh in the Hangouts when we were chatting one day. And he was interested in how we do bases and that sort of stuff. So that kind of inspired me or prompted me to do this video series. So he was born in 1968, so it seemed apt that we give a little nod to him somewhere on the build. So yeah, that's that. So the chassis itself, all painted in Tamiya LP NATO green over a UMP black primer. And then we picked out a couple of the details with Citadel colour at the front there. So the red and then the tools there, as you can see, they're moulded in and they were picked out again with some Citadel colour. And then we had a Norn oil sort of panel line wash on it, and I think it looks where we need it to be. We'll add some more weathering once it's on the base to tie it in, but that's where we're at the moment with the chassis. The cab itself is all done. We've put the US Marine Corps driver in it. There are videos on the channel showing me painting Rubicon Vietnam figures. This is essentially out the box. I added this yellow stripe at the front. When I was looking at reference pictures and stuff, I saw that and I thought it just looked cool. Just adds a bit of colour to what otherwise is just a base green vehicle. I added that little vehicle identification plates. That's just a tiny bit of styrene sheet with a decal out the spares box that I added to it. We've painted the headlights and things, and that's all together and weathered up. In the cab itself, from the Rubicon US Army set, I've just added a rifle and like a day sack or webbing pouch that would obviously belong to the driver, but most of that we won't see because we're going to have the canvas cover on top, so we'll lose a lot of that ability to see inside there. The windscreen was just done from some clear styrene sheet cut to size, because you don't get any clear parts in Rubicon kits, and that's worked out quite well. We rusted up the exhaust. They probably weren't that rusty in reality, however it adds again a bit of visual interest to the model. And the decals performed flawlessly as Rubicon decals do. So yeah, they're all in place, and that will sit on the front of the chassis. It's almost like a clip together, but obviously we will glue it, but that will just push into place there. You've got a little cut out for the exhaust, and that's the actual cab of the vehicle together, with its canvas cover. Now where I've done the most work really, so we've managed to do the top. We decided to keep the canvas cover on, so I've been working on the canvas cover. I'm working on the actual bed of the truck itself, so I've added all this stowage, which is all, apart from the spare wheel which comes in the kit, all of this stowage is from the Rubicon stowage set. And then this box at the back here, this big sort of wooden crate, was from Value Gear, I believe, some of their 156 range, and it's all, and this big roll here was added. So it's fully loaded. It's you know, a resupply truck almost, but as you can see, once the top goes on and the back and all that sort of stuff, we're not going to see a lot of that without real close inspection. Now, what I'm worried about mainly with this is, you can see as we add the top there, this kind of join seam line, if you like, on the canvas cover. And I think that's going to be fairly obvious. So what we may have to do is use like green stuff or something in the joint, blend the green, because we don't want to lose all this lovely molded in detail from the cover. But I think we need to do something about that. So what we may do is put some green stuff in this seam, blend it into the cover itself, and then just go over it with some paint, blend it all in, and try and eradicate that sort of join as best we can, because this would essentially be one piece of canvas. But as I say, we won't see a lot of this stowage once it's all together. I've worked on the tailgate. So again, we've added an identification sort of panel there. There'll be a couple of decals that go on here. But yeah, it's pretty much together. And then that will sit on the back of the truck, like so, or in that sort of position. So again, covering up a lot of this stowage, but as a build, goes together flawlessly, as you would expect, or as I've come to expect from Rubicon. And then what will happen is that will just fit on the back of the truck like so. The only other thing we're going to add, I spoke to Mark, it is to add the 50 cal mount on the front, above the driver's cab. So we'll do that as well. But that is the truck in essence. And it's pretty much there. We just got to deal with that join on the canvas cover at the back. If it doesn't work, and I'm unable to deal with it to a satisfactory level, shall we say, then what we might end up doing is taking these canvas covers off, and using the open plan, the flatbed version, which would be a shame because I don't want to lose that canvas cover. The detail's really nice, molded in detail, but at the same time, if you've got a seam line down the top, it's going to detract away from it. So we'll play that one by ear and see where we go with it. Excuse me, see where we go with that. But yeah, as a build, very, very nice. Typical Rubicon. Added a few bits to it, which really embellishes the model, and makes it into something quite nice. About 6 inches long. So yeah, it's looking spot on, and it's looking where we need it to be at this stage. So our attention needs to turn to the base. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so the base itself then. So the idea is we're going to have this truck traveling along a sort of dirt road almost. We're going to have some foliage here, some quite dense jungle foliage, and then where I've cut out here is just going to be sort of a bit of sort of stagnant water next to the road itself. So the base itself is probably about 8 inches by 5, just very simple rectangular base that we can display the truck on. So the way I've constructed the base so far, if I turn it over, this was just a bit of old polystyrene from, I can't even remember what was in it, to be honest, but sort of packing polystyrene, which gave the main structure. We've then put a balsa wood surround on it, and then used some XPS foam to kind of build up that level. And those observant of you will see we've scored into that XPS foam, and we've added some toothpicks or cocktail sticks, depending where you are in the world, just to secure it in place. That's all glued in place with PVA glue, and it's all set now, so we're ready to start the groundworks. So what we need to do is we need to put a sort of base layer of texture onto the base itself, and what that will do is seal all this polystyrene and XPS foam in, ready for painting. The reason we've scored into it is to allow that texture to kind of take hold. So what we're going to use to be able to do that is a product from Vallejo, or Vallejo, or whatever you want to say. which is thick mud. So it's like an acrylic paste, essentially. Very good stuff. Get this for about £10 for a tub of it. And for this sort of stuff, it is ideal. So the way we're going to do it, you can see in there, it's like this thick acrylic type paste. So we'll essentially, just as if we're icing a cake almost. So we'll get a spreading tool. This is a tongue depressor. You get a box of these from Amazon for pennies, really. Give that a bit of a stir. And then as you can see, we just get this sort of textured paste. And this will cover any gaps. It will allow us to create some texture onto the actual model. We don't need to be very precise at this stage. This takes anywhere between sort of 12-24 hours to cure and dry. I personally like to leave it the 24 hours just so that we can be sure before we start adding anything to it that we're dry and cured properly. So yeah, we just get loads and loads of that on and in place, just to build up that level. Use your finger if you go over any of the sides, but the good thing about having the wood raised around the sides is it gives you something to kind of scrape against, which works really well. Well, I find it works really well. Everyone's got their own ways of doing stuff. So we're going to try and avoid that sort of culvert, if you like, where we're going to put some standing water. Just avoid that at the minute. And the idea with this, we're not worried about smoothness at this stage, is just to get this texture all over the base. You can use other things. There's lots of AK products you can use for this. You can use normal household filler. It doesn't really matter at this stage because this is all going to be covered and painted and everything else. So we're not too fussed about it currently. And then what we will have to do is get a bit messy shortly and actually use our finger to get this everywhere we need it to be, because we want to ensure that the entire thing pretty much is covered where we need it to be, like so. As I say, very, very similar to icing a cake. So I'm told. I don't really bake, but when other people have seen me do this, they're like, yeah, it's like icing a chocolate cake or whatever. So I guess it is. I'll take their word for it. They know way better than me. So yeah, there we go. So we're just covering the entire thing. And as you can see now, where we've left that natural sort of depth between the sides of the base and the actual foam, that's allowing us now to build up this more natural looking texture. It's exactly what we wanted to do. Okay, that'll do us pretty much. So just be conscious at this stage, because once this sets, it sets pretty hard. So obviously we've got a road here, so just be conscious that we want to move in the direction roughly that we want the dust road and everything to kind of be moving in. And that's fine, like so. And then just use sort of the long edge of whatever it is you're using, whether it's a bit of scrap wood, a tongue depressor, doesn't really matter. And just kind of, as best you can, level it off, like so. Then, mark one finger and just remove any excess from the sides. It will come off real easy at this stage. As I say, it's not the cleanest of jobs. Wear gloves if you want. But yeah, that's essentially what we want to do, is move all that away from the sides. Now, you can, a lot of people will let the groundwork run over the sides of the base. I like a definitive frame, if that makes sense. That's just how I do things, but you can go right to the edge with this groundwork. But as I say, I tend to go for sort of definitive frame for the vignette or diorama or whatever. That's just a personal preference. Other people go right to the edge and then just have the base in black or whatever color they choose. But that's it. So that is the texture essentially. Let's move that out of the way. It's very sticky stuff, this. It will weld itself to your hand almost. And I've not been prepared at all, and my sort of cloth for wiping this stuff off my hand is gone AWOL, but never mind. I'll do that. But you get the general idea of what we're trying to achieve. And then I won't put it on there at the minute because it will stick to it. We get this kind of truck traveling along this dirt road next to the water, and that's the look we're going for. And then the vegetation behind it, to sort of frame it a little bit. So when we come back in the next video, this will be completely dry. We're then going to add some further texture to it, some groundworks, and then we'll be painting the base really, and getting it looking like a jungle scene from Vietnam. That's the plan, and that's what we're aiming for. So thank you very much for watching. Any questions, leave a comment below. As I say, it's a very simple build, this, and that's what we're going for, just as a very simple jungle base for the vehicle. So yeah, any questions, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed already, hit that all important subscribe button, and go and visit Rubicon UK, or wherever you are in the world. Visit the relevant website. Link is in the video description. And hopefully in the next video we'll see this coming together, and looking a bit more like a jungle. So until next time guys, stay safe, happy hobbying, bye bye.